Michael always believed that problems had a structure. You could break them down, analyze them, fix them. That's what he told himself every morning as he adjusted his tie in the hallway mirror, coffee in one hand, phone already buzzing in the other. Numbers made sense. Deadlines made sense. Clients, contracts, outcomes, everything followed a logic he could trust. People didn't. "Are you coming tonight?" Sarah asked from the kitchen. Michael didn't turn. "What's tonight?" he replied, scrolling through emails. There was a pause. Not long, but long enough. "It's Emily's school thing," Sarah said. "The presentation she's been working on all month." Michael frowned slightly, still not looking up. "Right," he said. "Yeah, I'll try." Sarah leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You said that last time." "I know," he said. "This week's just busy," she finished for him. He finally looked up. "Yes, busy." Sarah gave a small nod, but there was no agreement in it. "Everything is always busy, Michael. That's how things work," he said. "I'm doing this for us." She held his gaze. "I know you think that," she said quietly. Something in her tone made him uncomfortable, but he didn't have time to unpack it. "I have to go," he said, grabbing his keys. "I'll try to make it, okay?" Sarah didn't answer. Emily noticed. She was 13, which meant she noticed everything and pretended she didn't care. "Dad coming?" her friend Lily asked as they set up their project boards in the school gym. Emily shrugged. "Maybe." "You don't sound sure." "I'm not." Lily hesitated. "My mom says adults are just bad at timing," she offered. Emily let out a small, humorless laugh. "Yeah, that sounds about right." She glanced at the door. Parents were already starting to fill the room. Voices, laughter, cameras ready. She spotted her mom near the back, smiling, waving slightly. Emily waved back. And then she looked at the door again. Just in case. Michael didn't mean to be late. That's what he told himself as he sat in traffic, fingers tapping impatiently against the steering wheel. The clock on the dashboard seemed louder than usual. 6:47 p.m. The event started at 6:30. He exhaled sharply. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, though he wasn't sure if he meant the traffic or the situation. His phone buzzed again. Work. Of course. He glanced at it, hesitated, then picked it up. "Yeah, Michael, we have a problem with the Wilson account," his colleague said. "They're threatening to pull out." Michael closed his eyes for a second. "Of course they are. We need you on this." He looked at the road ahead. Still not moving. Then at the clock. 6:52. "Give me 10 minutes," he said. "You don't have 10 minutes. Michael tightened his grip on the phone. "Then give me 5. He hung up before the conversation could continue. For a moment, he just sat there. Caught. Between what needed him and who needed him. He started the car forward as traffic finally began to move. Emily stood at her board, explaining her project for the third time. Something about environmental changes and local ecosystems. She had worked hard on it. Late nights, printed drafts, careful handwriting. Her mom listened closely, asking questions, smiling. "You did amazing," Sarah said when she finished. Emily nodded. "Thanks." But her eyes drifted to the door again. Still nothing. "Hey," Sarah said gently. "He might still." "It's okay," Emily cut in quickly. Too quickly. Sarah paused. "It's not okay," she said softly. Emily shrugged. "It's normal." That word hung there. Normal. And Sarah realized, with a quiet kind of heartbreak, that this had become their version of it. Michael arrived at 7:18. The gym was half empty. He walked in, scanning the room, trying to look like he wasn't rushing. He spotted Sarah first. Then Emily. She was sitting on a chair, her project board already taken down, resting against the wall beside her. He approached slowly. "Hey," he said. Emily looked up. "Oh," she said. "You came." Not excitement. Not relief. Just acknowledgement. Traffic was. "Yeah," she said. "I know." Sarah stood nearby, watching. "You missed it," she said. Michael nodded. "I figured." There was a moment where he could have said more. Explained. Justified. But something about the way Emily avoided his eyes made all of that feel empty. "I'm sorry," he said instead. Emily shrugged. It's fine. Same word. Different meaning. Michael looked at the project board. You want to show me? He asked. Emily hesitated. Then shook her head. They're closing up, she said. Doesn't matter. It matters to me. She looked at him then. Really looked. And for a second, he saw it clearly. The disappointment. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just settled. Then you should have been here, she said. She stood up, picked up her board, and walked past him. Michael didn't follow right away. Because for the first time in a long time, he didn't have a solution. No structure. No quick fix. Just a moment he couldn't redo. And the quiet realization that some things don't break all at once. They crack slowly. In missed events. In small disappointments. In words like, it's fine, that mean the opposite. Sarah walked past him too. We'll talk at home, she said. Michael nodded. But he already knew. This wasn't something they could solve in one conversation. This was something they had been building for years. Without noticing. Until now. And the hardest part wasn't fixing it. It was admitting that he had let it happen. That night, the house felt quieter than usual. Not because it was silent, but because no one was really talking. Michael stood in the kitchen, staring at the sink full of dishes he didn't remember leaving there. His jacket was still on, his tie loosened, like he hadn't fully arrived home yet. Upstairs, a door closed. Not slammed. Just closed. He ran a hand over his face. Great, he muttered to himself. From the living room, Sarah's voice came, calm but distant. You're going to stand there all night, or are you going to say something? Michael turned. She was sitting on the couch, legs tucked under her, a blanket draped over her lap. The TV was on, but muted. He stepped into the room. I said I'm sorry, he began. Sarah looked at him. That's not really saying something, she replied. He frowned. What do you want me to say? She held his gaze. I want you to understand. Michael let out a breath. I do understand. I missed it. It wasn't intentional. That's the problem, Sarah said. None of it ever is. He didn't answer right away. Because that felt uncomfortably true. I'm trying to keep everything together, he said finally. Work is demanding, she finished again. Important, he corrected. Sarah nodded slowly. And we're not. That's not what I said. It's what it feels like. The words landed heavier than anything else she'd said. Michael sat down across from her. That's not fair, he said. No, she agreed quietly. It's not. But it's honest. Silence stretched between them. Do you know what she did after you didn't show up? Sarah asked. Michael looked down. No. She stopped looking at the door, Sarah said. That's when I knew it was worse than usual. Michael's chest tightened. That doesn't mean she doesn't care, he said. No, Sarah replied. It means she's getting used to it. That hit harder. Because getting used to disappointment was something you couldn't easily undo. I'll talk to her, Michael said. Sarah nodded. You should. He stood up slowly, heading toward the stairs. Then stopped. Sarah, he said. She looked up. I'm not choosing work over you, he said. She studied him for a moment. I know, she said. But you're choosing something that keeps taking you away from us. And after a while, it feels the same. He didn't have an answer for that. So he went upstairs. Emily's door was closed. Michael knocked lightly. Hey, he said. Can I come in? A pause. Then, yeah. He opened the door. Her room was dim, lit only by a small lamp on her desk. The project board was leaning against the wall. She was sitting on her bed, scrolling through her phone. He stepped inside. You did all that work, he said, nodding toward the board. Looks impressive. Emily didn't look up, thanks. Michael shifted his weight. I'm sorry I missed it. She shrugged. It's fine. Same word again. But this time, he didn't let it pass. No, he said. It's not. That got her attention. She looked up surprised. Michael took a step closer. You worked hard on something important to you, he continued. And I wasn't there. That matters. Emily watched him carefully. Then why weren't you? She asked. Simple question. No attitude. Just real. Michael opened his mouth. Closed it. Because for once, the usual answers sounded weak even to him. I thought I could do both, he said finally. Handle work and still make it on time. And you couldn't, she said. No, he admitted. Emily nodded slightly. That happens a lot. He sat down on the edge of the chair across from her desk. I know, he said. And that's on me. She studied him. Like she was deciding whether to believe him. Are you going to keep doing it? She asked. The question hung there. Not emotional. Not dramatic. Just honest. Michael leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. I don't want to, he said. That's not the same as not doing it. He almost smiled. That's true. Another pause. Then Emily glanced at her project board. I got second place, she said quietly. Michael looked at her. Really? She nodded. Yeah. He let out a breath. That's amazing. She shrugged, but there was a small hint of pride in her eyes. It was okay. Okay, he said. That's really good. Emily didn't argue. But she didn't fully accept it either. Mom recorded part of it, she said after a moment. Michael looked up. Can I see it? She hesitated. Then nodded. Yeah, I guess. She picked up her phone, scrolling for a second, then handed it to him. Michael watched. Emily standing in front of her board, explaining something with confidence, using her hands the way she always did when she was passionate about something. He hadn't seen that side of her in a while. Or maybe he just hadn't been paying attention. When the video ended, he handed the phone back. You were great, he said. Emily gave a small nod. Thanks. Another pause. Then, next time, Michael said, I'll be there. Emily looked at him. Next time isn't this time. He nodded slowly. I know. And for the first time, he didn't try to fix it. Didn't try to make it sound better. He just let it be what it was. A mistake. One that mattered. Emily leaned back slightly. You can come to the next one, she said. It wasn't forgiveness. But it wasn't rejection either. It was something in between. And for now, that was enough. Michael stood up. Good night, he said. Night, she replied. As he closed the door, he realized something. Fixing things wasn't going to be about one big gesture. It was going to be about showing up. Again. And again. Until maybe turned back into, I know you will. And that would take time. More time than he was used to giving. But for the first time, he was starting to understand that this was the kind of investment you couldn't afford to delay. The next morning, Michael didn't set an alarm. He still woke up early. Habit. For a few seconds, he lay there, staring at the ceiling, already feeling the pull of his usual routine, the urge to check his phone, to get ahead of the day before it could get ahead of him. His hand reached toward the nightstand. Then stopped. He exhaled slowly and turned the phone face down instead. From the hallway, he could hear quiet movement. Cabinets opening. A chair sliding across the floor. He sat up. Got dressed. And, for once, didn't rush. Emily was already in the kitchen, eating cereal, one earbud in, half scrolling through something on her phone. Sarah stood at the counter, making coffee. They both looked up when Michael walked in. Not surprised. Just noticing. Morning, he said. Morning, Sarah replied. Emily gave a small nod. Michael poured himself coffee, then leaned against the counter. I can take her to school, he said. The words came out a little awkwardly, like something he wasn't used to offering. Emily glanced at him. You don't have work? She asked. I do, he said. But I can go in later. Sarah raised an eyebrow slightly. That's new. Michael nodded. Yeah, he said. I'm trying something different. Emily watched him for a second. Then shrugged. Okay. It wasn't excitement. But it wasn't resistance either. And that felt like progress. The drive to school was quiet at first. The kind of quiet that usually filled itself with music or quick conversations. But neither of them rushed to fill it. Michael kept his eyes on the road. Emily looked out the window. After a few minutes, he spoke. So, what's next? He asked. After this project? Emily shrugged. Another one, probably. He smiled slightly. Of course. A pause. Science fair in a few weeks, she added. Michael nodded. Big one. Kind of. Are you doing it? Yeah. He glanced at her. Want help? She hesitated. Maybe, she said. It wasn't a yes. But it wasn't a no. Michael took it. Okay, he said. Just let me know. They pulled up to the school. Emily gathered her things. Hey, Michael said before she got out. She paused. Yeah, I meant what I said, he added. About being there. She studied him for a moment. I know you meant it, she said. And then she got out. That answer stayed with him longer than anything else. Because meaning it had never been the problem. At work, nothing had changed. Emails, calls, pressure. The Wilson account was still an issue. His colleague, Jason, walked into his office without knocking. Where were you last night? Jason asked. We needed you. Michael didn't look up from his screen. I had something to take care of. Jason frowned. Something more important than losing a major client? Michael leaned back in his chair. For me? Yeah. Jason blinked. Since when? Michael met his eyes. Since I realized I'm already losing something bigger. Jason didn't respond right away. Because this wasn't the usual version of Michael. You're serious, he said. Yeah. Jason shook his head slightly. All right, he said. Just don't expect things here to slow down. I don't, Michael replied. I just expect myself to handle it differently. Jason nodded once and left. Michael sat there for a moment. Then he picked up his phone, scrolled, and blocked out time on his calendar. Emily, science fair prep. He stared at it. It looked small, almost insignificant compared to everything else on his schedule. But somehow, it felt like the most important thing on it. That evening, he came home earlier than usual. Not dramatically early. Just on time. Emily was at the dining table, papers spread out, notebook open. Sarah was in the kitchen. They both noticed. Again, no big reaction. Just quiet awareness. Michael set his bag down. Working on the science fair? He asked. Emily nodded. Just ideas. He walked over, looking at the papers. What are you thinking about doing? She pointed to a page. Something about water filtration. Maybe building a small system. Michael nodded. That's a good idea. She glanced at him. You don't even know the details yet. Doesn't matter, he said. Sounds interesting. She almost smiled. Okay. He pulled out a chair. Wanna walk me through it? Emily hesitated. Then turned the notebook toward him. And started explaining. Not perfectly. Not confidently like in the video. But openly. Michael listened. Not half listening. Not checking his phone. Actually listening. Asking questions. Letting her think. Sarah watched from the kitchen. Quietly. Not interrupting. Because this small, ordinary moment felt bigger than anything they'd had in a while. Not fixed. Not perfect. But moving. In the right direction. And sometimes, that's how things come back together. Not all at once. Not with big speeches or dramatic changes. But in small choices. Repeated. Until they start to mean something. Until trust slowly rebuilds. Until he might show up becomes he will. And for the first time in a long time, that possibility didn't feel distant. It felt close. The weekend came quietly. No big plans. No deadlines hanging over them, at least not the kind Michael used to prioritize above everything else. Saturday morning, the house felt different. Not dramatically. Just lighter. Michael stood in the kitchen, flipping pancakes badly. One was too dark. Another barely cooked. This is a disaster, he muttered. From the table, Emily watched, trying not to laugh. You're supposed to flip them faster, she said. I am flipping them, he replied. They're just not cooperating. That's not how pancakes work. He glanced at her. You want to take over? She smirked slightly. Maybe I should. Sarah leaned against the counter, coffee in hand, observing the scene with a quiet smile. I'm enjoying this, she said. Don't ruin it. Michael shook his head. Unbelievable. I try to do something nice. And we appreciate it, Sarah said. It's just new. He nodded. Yeah, I know. Emily stood up and walked over. Here, she said, taking the spatula from him. You're doing it wrong. Of course I am, he said, stepping aside. She flipped one smoothly. Michael raised his hands slightly. All right. I admit defeat. Emily smiled, small but real. They ate together. No rush. No one checking the time every 5 minutes. Just a normal breakfast. Something that had somehow become rare. Halfway through, Emily spoke. We have to start building the filter, she said. If I want to test it before the fair. Michael nodded. What do you need? She shrugged. Materials. Bottles, sand, gravel. I looked it up. Michael leaned back slightly. Want to go get everything today? Emily hesitated. Then nodded. Yeah, that would be good. Sarah glanced between them. I'll stay here, she said. You two go. Michael looked at her. You sure? She smiled softly. Yeah, she said. I think you need this more than I do. He didn't argue. Because she was right. The hardware store hadn't changed in years. Same layout. Same smell of wood and dust and something metallic. Michael pushed the cart while Emily walked ahead, checking a list on her phone. We need gravel first, she said. Lead the way. They moved through the aisles. At first, it was practical. Find this. Grab that. But slowly, it became something else. Do we need this much? Michael asked, holding up a bag. Yes, Emily said. It's for multiple layers. Right. Layers. She glanced at him. You're just repeating what I say. I'm learning, he replied. She shook her head, but there was a hint of amusement. At one point, they stopped near a display of tools. Michael picked up a small kit. You ever built anything before? He asked. Emily shrugged. Not really. He nodded. We could start, he said. Not just for this project. Other stuff. She looked at him. Like what? I don't know, he admitted. Whatever you want. She considered that. Maybe, she said. It wasn't a commitment. But it was interest. And that was enough. Back home, they spread everything out on the table. Bottles, sand, gravel, filters. It wasn't neat. It wasn't perfect. But it was theirs. Okay, Emily said, we start by cutting the bottle. Michael picked up a knife. I'll do that part. Good idea, she said. I don't trust myself with that. He smiled slightly. Smart. They worked side by side. Sometimes talking. Sometimes not. But the silence wasn't awkward. It was focused. Shared. At one point, Emily looked up. Why didn't you do this before? She asked. Michael paused. Do what? This, she said, gesturing around. Just be here. He didn't answer immediately. Because the honest answer wasn't simple. I thought providing was enough, he said finally. That if I made sure everything else was taken care of, this would just work. Emily nodded slowly. But it didn't. No, he said. It didn't. She looked back down at the project. I didn't think you wanted to be here, she said quietly. That hit harder than anything else. Michael leaned forward slightly. I did, he said. I just didn't show it. Emily didn't respond right away. But she didn't pull away either. They kept working. Layer by layer. Sand. Gravel. Filter. Building something that only worked if each part was there. If each layer did its job. If nothing was missing. After a while, Emily poured a small amount of dirty water into the top. They both watched as it slowly passed through, dripping out clearer at the bottom. Hey, she said, a small smile forming. It's working. Michael smiled back. Yeah, he said. It is. And in that moment, it didn't feel like just a project. It felt like something else. Something they were figuring out together. Slowly. Imperfectly. But honestly. Because fixing things, real things, wasn't about quick solutions. It was about showing up. Doing the work. Layer by layer. Until something broken started to function again. And for the first time, Michael didn't feel like he was trying to catch up. He felt like he was finally part of it. Sunday evening came with a quiet kind of stillness. The kind that settles in after a full day, not busy, not exhausting, just complete. The project sat on the kitchen counter, a little messy but working. Emily had tested it 3 more times, making small adjustments, writing notes in her notebook. Michael had stayed the whole time. Not hovering. Not taking over. Just there. Now the house was calm. Emily was upstairs. Sarah stood by the sink, rinsing dishes. Michael dried them, placing each one carefully in the rack. It wasn't something he used to do. But it felt natural now. Or at least, intentional. You didn't check your phone once today, Sarah said without turning around. Michael glanced at the counter where it sat. I noticed that too, he said. She smiled slightly. Hard. At first, he admitted. Now, not really. Sarah turned off the water and faced him. That's new. Yeah. A pause. Then she leaned back against the counter. She's different with you, Sarah said. Michael looked at her. Better or worse? Careful, she said. But open. He nodded slowly. I'll take that. Another pause. I wasn't sure you'd actually change anything, she added. Michael didn't react defensively. I wasn't sure either, he said. That surprised her. What made you start? She asked. He thought about it. The way she said you came, he said. Like it was unexpected. Sarah's expression softened. Yeah, she said quietly. That moment stayed with me too. Michael set the towel down. I don't want to be unexpected in my own family, he said. Sarah nodded. Then don't be. Simple. But not easy. I'm trying, he said. I see that, she replied. And for the first time in a while, that wasn't said with doubt. It was said with recognition. Later that night, Michael knocked on Emily's door again. Yeah, she called. He stepped in. She was at her desk writing. Working, he asked. Yeah, she said. Documenting results. He smiled slightly. Sounds official. She shrugged. It has to be. He nodded. Looks good. She glanced at him. Thanks for helping, she said. It was simple. But it mattered. Anytime, he replied. A pause. Then she asked. Are you going to be at the science fair? Michael didn't hesitate this time. Yes. She held his gaze. Like, actually there? Actually there, he said. She watched him for a second longer. Then nodded. Okay. Not excitement. Not full trust yet. But something closer than before. And that was enough. The next few weeks didn't transform everything overnight. Michael still worked. Still had deadlines. Still felt the pressure. But he started setting boundaries. Small ones at first. Leaving on time. Ignoring late emails. Blocking out hours that belonged to something else. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it didn't. But he kept trying. And people noticed. At work, there were questions. At home, there were changes. Emily talked more. Not all the time, but more. Sarah relaxed slightly. Not completely, but enough to breathe easier. And slowly, the house began to feel like a place where everyone was present. Not just physically. Actually present. The day of the science fair arrived. Michael got there early. Not just on time. Early. He stood in the gym, looking around at the boards, the students setting up, the nervous energy in the air. And for the first time, he wasn't rushing. He wasn't checking the clock. He wasn't thinking about what came next. He was just there. Emily walked in a few minutes later with Sarah. She spotted him almost immediately. And stopped. Wait, she said quietly. He's already here. Sarah smiled. Yeah, she said. He is. Emily looked at him for a moment. Then walked over. You're early, she said. Michael smiled. I know. She nodded. Good. And that one word carried something new. Not surprise. Not doubt. Just acceptance. Later, when it was her turn to present, Michael stood in the front. Watching. Listening. Fully there. And when she finished, he was the first to clap. Not loud. Not over the top. Just steady. Certain. The way someone claps when they're not trying to make up for something, but simply proud. Emily caught his eye for a second. And this time, she smiled. Not small. Not careful. Real. That night, back at home, they sat together again. Tired. But in a good way. How'd I do? Emily asked. Michael looked at her. You already know, he said. She smiled. Yeah, she admitted. I do. Sarah leaned back. You were amazing, she added. Emily nodded. Thanks. A pause. Then she looked at Michael. You didn't miss it, she said. He shook his head. No, he said. I didn't. And this time, there was no apology attached. Because this time, he had simply shown up. And sometimes, that's the whole story. Not a perfect family. Not a perfect life. Just people who realized, a little late but not too late, that being there matters more than anything else. And then, chose to be. Every day after that, Monday didn't feel like a fresh start. It felt like a test. Michael sat in his office, staring at his calendar. Meetings stacked back to back. Emails marked urgent. Messages from Jason already waiting. Nothing had slowed down. Nothing had adjusted itself to his new priorities, which meant he had to be the one to adjust. His phone buzzed. Jason, come to the conference room, the message read. Now. Michael exhaled slowly and stood up. The room was already tense when he walked in. Jason stood near the screen, arms crossed. Two other team members sat at the table, laptops open, faces serious. We're losing Wilson, Jason said immediately. Unless we fix this today. Michael nodded once. All right, he said. What's the issue? Jason clicked the remote, pulling up numbers. They think we're not giving them enough attention, he said. Response times, delays, basically. They feel like they're not a priority. Michael almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it sounded familiar. What do they want? Michael asked. More access. Faster turnaround. More direct involvement from you, Jason said. Of course they did. Michael looked at the screen. Then at the team. Okay, he said. We can restructure the account. Jason frowned. What does that mean? It means we stop pretending I have to be in every part of this, Michael replied. We assign a lead. Clear communication. Define timelines. Jason shook his head. They want you. Michael met his eyes. They don't need me everywhere. They need consistency. That's not what they said. It's what they actually need, Michael said calmly. And it's what we can realistically deliver. The room went quiet. Jason studied him. You're pulling back, he said. I'm focusing, Michael corrected. Jason let out a breath. This is a big client. I know. And you're willing to risk it? Michael paused. Not long. Just enough to be honest. Yes. That landed. Because this wasn't the old Michael. The one who would have stayed late, taken every call, carried everything himself. This was different. Jason leaned back slightly. All right, he said. Then you own that decision. I do, Michael replied. And for once, that didn't feel like pressure. It felt like clarity. That afternoon, Michael left work on time. Again. It still felt strange. Like he was getting away with something. But he didn't rush. Didn't check his phone every 2 minutes. He just drove home. Emily was at the table again. More notes? More adjustments. Hey, Michael said as he walked in. Hey, she replied. How'd it go today? Good, she said. My teacher said I should add more data. He nodded. Sounds like a good idea. She looked at him. You're home early again. Yeah. Why? He set his keys down. Because I said I would be. She held his gaze for a second. Then nodded. Okay. It was still simple. But it carried more weight now. Later that evening, Michael's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. Jason. He hesitated. Then answered. Hey. We lost them, Jason said. Michael closed his eyes briefly. Okay. That's it. Jason asked. Okay. Michael walked toward the window. What do you want me to say? He replied. We made a call. We lost a major account. I know. There was a pause. You would have fought harder before, Jason said. Michael looked outside. The street was quiet. Lights on in houses. People home. Yeah, he said. I would have. And now? Michael exhaled slowly. Now I'm choosing where I fight. Jason didn't respond right away. You really changed, he said finally. Michael thought about it. I think I just noticed what I was losing, he said. Another pause. Hope it's worth it, Jason muttered. Michael looked toward the dining table, where Emily was still working, Sarah sitting nearby. It already is, he said. He hung up. That night, something felt heavier, not at home. At work. The consequence had come faster than expected. And for a moment, doubt crept in. He sat on the couch, quieter than usual. Sarah noticed. What happened? She asked. He looked at her. We lost a client, he said. Her expression shifted slightly. That's big, right? Yeah. A pause. Because of you? She asked carefully. Michael didn't avoid it. Partly, he said. She sat down across from him. And you're okay with that? He thought about it. I'm not happy about it, he said. But I understand it. Sarah studied him. That's new. Yeah. Another pause. You're not going to go back to how things were, she asked. Michael shook his head. No. You're sure? He looked at her. Then toward Emily's room. Then back. Yes. And this time, there was no hesitation. Because this wasn't about one moment anymore. It wasn't about one missed event or one apology. It was about a decision. A real one. About what mattered most. And what he was willing to lose. To keep it. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, she said. Not questioning. Not doubting. Just accepting. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, they were both on the same side of something. Even if it wasn't easy. Even if it came with a cost. Because real change always does. But so does staying the same. And Michael had finally chosen which one he could live with. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Change never is. At work, things were different. Not worse, not better, just unfamiliar. Fewer late nights. Fewer emergencies. But also fewer wins that came from pushing past every limit. Michael had to relearn how to measure success. Not just in numbers, but in time. At home, things kept shifting too. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But steadily. Emily started leaving her door open more often. Sarah laughed a little easier. And the house finally felt lived in again, not just passed through. One evening, Michael came home to find the kitchen covered in papers. Not work papers. Emily's. Charts, notes, sketches of her project. What's all this? He asked. Final prep, Emily said. Regional selection. Michael raised his eyebrows. Regional. She nodded, trying to act casual. My teacher submitted my project. I got picked. For a second, he just looked at her. Wait, that's huge, he said. She shrugged, but her smile gave her away. It's okay. Okay, he repeated. Emily, that's amazing. Sarah stepped in from the other room. She's been pretending it's not a big deal all day, she said. Emily rolled her eyes. It's just another step. Michael walked over, looking at the papers. When is it? He asked. Next Friday. He nodded immediately. I'll be there. Emily looked at him. Not questioning. Just hearing it. Okay, she said. And that okay felt different now. It wasn't careful. It wasn't guarded. It was simple. Trusting. That Friday, Michael didn't just show up. He prepared. He cleared his scheduled days in advance. He told his team he wouldn't be available. No, maybe. No, I'll try. Just a decision. And when the day came, he was there early again. Standing in a larger hall this time. More people. More pressure. Emily looked nervous. You got this, he said. She nodded. I know. And she did. When she presented, she was confident. Clear. Focused. Not perfect. But real. Michael watched the entire time. No distractions. No interruptions. Just present. When it was over, she walked back to them. How is it? She asked. Michael smiled. You already know. She laughed slightly. Yeah, she said. I think I do. That night, they waited for results. Not at the venue. At home. Together. Takeout on the table. TV on in the background, but no one really watching. Emily refreshed her email every few minutes. Michael sat beside her. You're going to wear out the screen, he said. She smiled nervously. I know. A few more minutes passed. Then, her phone buzzed. Everything stopped. Emily stared at the screen. Open it, Sarah said softly. I am, Emily replied, but she hadn't yet. Michael leaned slightly closer. Whatever it says, he said, you did something incredible. She nodded. Then opened it. Her eyes moved quickly. Then stopped. Silence. Emily? Sarah asked. She looked up. And smiled. I got it, she said. What? Michael asked. I made it to state. For a second, no one moved. Then everything happened at once. Sarah stood up, pulling her into a hug. Michael laughed, standing too. That's my girl, he said, wrapping his arms around both of them. Emily laughed into the hug. I didn't think I would, she said. But you did, Michael replied. And this time, there was no hesitation in his voice. Only pride. Later that night, after everything settled, Michael stepped outside. The air was cool. Quiet. He leaned against the railing, looking out at the street. Sarah joined him a moment later. You look like you're thinking, she said. I am, he admitted. About work? She asked. He shook his head. No. She smiled slightly. Good. A pause. You're different, she said. Michael nodded. Yeah, he said. I think I am. Do you miss it? She asked. The way things were? He thought about it. The long hours. The constant pressure. The feeling of being needed everywhere. Then he looked back inside, through the window. Emily laughing, still talking about her project. Home. Present. No, he said. And he meant it. A few days later, Emily sat at the table again. Notebook open. Planning for the next stage. Michael walked in and sat across from her. So, he said, what's next? She looked up. Bigger project, she said. More testing. He nodded. Good. A pause. Then she smiled slightly. You're going to help, right? Michael smiled back. Of course. No hesitation. No doubt. Just truth. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt aligned. Not perfect. Not finished. But right. Because the real success wasn't the project. Or the competition. Or even the changes at work. It was this. Being there. Consistently. Honestly. Without needing a second chance to prove it. And sometimes, a happy ending isn't about everything going perfectly. It's about people choosing each other. Again and again, until it finally becomes the normal they were looking for all along.